everyone. Well, let's do this again. But this time, let's do it a week earlier this year, as it's time to continue on the road to the Grey Cup series, as I just did my Eastern semi-final preview video. Well, let's take a look at the west side of the bracket here, as the West semi-final. We'll preview that matchup here. And as I'm saying, let's do this again, but this time a week earlier. Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to be taking on the Calgary Stampeders, and the Calgary Stampeders will be hosting the West semi-final this year. Winner of that game will earn the right to go to Regina to take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders at Mosaic Stadium here. The West semi-final game will be at 2:30 Mountain Time at McMahon Stadium on Sunday, November the 10th there. And the Western Final, which the Saskatchewan Roughriders will host as they won the West Division this year, that game will happen on Sunday, November the 17th. Also a 2:30 Mountain kickoff or 4:30 Eastern, depending where you are in this country. I'm obviously here in Calgary, Alberta, so I'm on Mountain Time, and here we are, second video, second game of the CFL playoffs 2019, and this is definitely going to be, let's say, a little more of a heavyweight matchup, but it's going to be another close, good matchup here for both sides here, as I'll bring up my notes here and tell you how did we get here. So, as I say, it's the same format I did last year. I'll look at records, break down playoff history, break down the positions for each team, and look at the matchup, and ultimately, since all the games are played outside, I gotta get the weather forecast. I go to Environment Canada to be consistent, and I give my forecast as of this recording, subject to change. I mean, this is Canada, you never know. And then ultimately, I give my pick who I think was going to win. I do a pickup style, as I pick this team will win after I make the points on each team, and decide what's my confidence level in my decision and prediction here. So yeah, let's bring on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders, this time in the Western semi-final. So the records here, well, the Calgary Stampeders are hosting as they finish second in the West Division with a 12-6 record here. They were a strong 7-2 at home, and they were a strong 8-2 versus the West there. We'll get to that in a minute, where those two losses came from versus the West here. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they weren't too far behind. They finished third in the West with an 11-7 record. However, they were 3-6 on the road, but they were a strong 7-3 versus the West here. I mean, it was a strong division here in the West, and both teams have impressive records versus the division here. So now let's get to the season series here, and actually Calgary and Winnipeg played each other 3 times in the 2019 regular season, with Winnipeg hosting the game twice. So the first game in the season series happened in Week 9. This was the Calgary Stampeders in Winnipeg here, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers won that game, the first game, 26-24 here. How did that game? Well, Nick Arbuckle was still in quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, as Bo Levi Mitchell was injured. Matt Nichols was the starting quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here. But what stood up for that game was Janarian Grant. He returned 2 punt returns for a touchdown. Ultimately, obviously that was the difference, as Winnipeg only won by 2 here. Now, with this strange anomaly here, Calgary and Winnipeg did not meet again until Week 19, as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers went to Calgary, as Calgary was hosting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the first and only time in the regular season here. And in Week 19, the Calgary Stampeders evened the season series 37-33 here. How to highlight this game is that the Calgary Stampeders got into turnover trouble in the first half there. Winnipeg scored 24 of those 33 points in the second quarter alone. But the Calgary Stampeders were able to get things going in the second half. Reggie Bagleton had a big game. Bo Levi Mitchell looked back in fine season form. And even though Winnipeg had a big day on rushing there, Chris Streveler in their air attack was definitely suppressed and our defense was all over him. Matt Nichols had a season-ending injury halfway through the season there, so Chris Strevler started that game, but he barely finished. And then the final time we played the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, these two teams met, Calgary and Winnipeg, for the rubber match. Happened the following week, week 20, as the Calgary Stampeders were in Winnipeg. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers actually beat the Calgary Stampeders by 1 point, 29-28 here. How I highlighted this game was that actually Zach Collaros got traded twice in the regular season there. He started the season with the Saskatchewan Roughriders there. I don't think he even finished the first drive there, as he has a history of concussions, so he was out. And then eventually he got traded to the Toronto Argonauts, did not play in the Toronto Argonauts, and at the deadline the Toronto Argonauts traded him to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they were looking for insurance, as Zach Collaros could provide some veteran presence and insurance with already Matt Nichols out and Chris Strevler already beat up. Zach Collaros actually started that game and pulled out some magic there, aided by Janarian Grant again. He made a couple big plays, had a couple big returns. Also, what's unique in the CFL is if you miss a point after and it was wide, it could be returned for 2 points the other way, and I felt that when Winnipeg got the 2-point conversion off of a missed convert from a touchdown, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers actually got momentum from our touchdown here, and ultimately Justin Medlock kicked the winning field goal and took the season series here. So Winnipeg won the season series 2-1, with the home team winning all 3 games. And to tell you how close this matchup was, Calgary outscored Winnipeg 89-88. So are you going to say we're going to have a close matchup here? Given the history here, I think we're going to have a very close matchup here. And as I'll break down the matchup, it's going to be another interesting matchup here. And it'll likely be uncomfortable no matter what side you cheer on. So before we break down the matchup here, let's go over some playoff history here. And these two teams met just last year in the Western Final. It was in Calgary, and the Calgary Stampeders beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 22-14 here. So the Calgary Stampeders won last year and ultimately won the Grey Cup. However, this is a very rare matchup too, because the anomaly with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here is there was a time when Ottawa and Montreal were not in the CFL, so Winnipeg played much of their history recently, the last 30 years in the East here. So before the 2018 Western Final, just this last year, last times that the Stampeders and Blue Bombers met was in the 2001 Grey Cup, the 89th Grey Cup in Montreal, and the Calgary Stampeders upset the heavily favored Winnipeg Blue Bombers 27-19 that year. And then before that, it was back in 1992, it was the 80th Grey Cup in Toronto here. And the Calgary Stampeders, led by Doug Flutie, won their first Grey Cup in 21 years with a 24-10 victory here. If I want to go even further back here, the last time that Winnipeg and Calgary played in the Western semifinal, I was 5 months old. Back in 1982, as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers actually hosted the West semifinal that year, and they won convincingly 24-3 over the Calgary Stampeders here. So it's a little bit of a playoff history here. So we're making some new playoff history with Winnipeg rightfully in the West Division here. So I just enjoy some good or bad flashback depending on which side you cheer on here. So now let's break down the matchup here. As I go on CFL.ca and read the article, come to a few conclusions, and I agree with most of it, but there's a few things I disagree, and I add in a few tidbits myself when I look at the matchup further here. So quarterback here, the most important position in the game here. Calgary has Bo Levi Mitchell versus, I'm going to put Zach Collaros and Chris Strevler together here, because it wouldn't surprise me if we see both quarterbacks play some series in this game, not necessarily one guy coming in for the short yards, but it wouldn't surprise me. Word is it that Zach Collaros is practicing with the first team for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here. However, I'm going to give this advantage to Calgary. I think Bo Levi Mitchell is definitely the most experienced. He's the winningest quarterback in CFL history, and he's the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. So I get the advantage to Calgary there. Running back here, this is where the first mismatch of the game is going to be. Calgary has Don Jackson. Although Calgary's had a mash unit with running backs because there hasn't been anyone's been healthy. I mean, we've gone through like Kadeem Carey, we had Don Jackson, we briefly had Romar Morris, and even the odd time we have Ante Milovic leader running back. Versus Andrew Harris of Winnipeg, who that guy is the all-time leading rusher in Canadian history for Canadian-born players. Also, quarterback Chris Drever could also add to the running game here. This is a huge mismatch because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers actually led the league in rushing yards per game, and Calgary was last in the league in rushing yards per game. So advantage to Winnipeg when it comes to running back here. Receivers here, this is going to be an interesting matchup here because Calgary's led by Reggie Bagleton, who finished third in the league in receiving yards with over 1,400. And you got Eric Rogers, who also had another 1,000-yard receiving season. Those are going to be the two big guys to count on. However, Hergy Maala and Josh Huff have also risen up the ranks down the stretch here. Winnipeg has guys like Darvin Adams Jr. and Kenny Lawler here. And, they also got supplemental guys like Drew Wolotarski there and Nick Dembski. So I'm going to still give the advantage to Calgary here because of Reggie Bagleton and Eric Rogers. And I like how Hergy Maala has really stepped up, and Josh Huff too. So I'm going to give Calgary the advantage there. The offensive line here, well, Calgary definitely has longtime veterans like Derek Dennis, who I think is one of the best linemen in the league there, as well as Shane Bergman and Montgomery Williams here. Winnipeg has a younger, less experienced offensive line, but Drew DeLauriers is led the way, and Michael Couture, and also they got Jamarcus Hardwick, who is one of the staples on the offensive line for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here. However, I give Calgary the advantage there. So that's the offensive side of the ball here. So now let's shift focus to the defensive side of the ball here. Defensive line here, Calgary's led by Cordero Law and Mike Rose here. Chris Casher has also been a nice option as well for pressuring the quarterback here. However, Winnipeg definitely has proven veterans like Jackson Jeffcoat and Willie Jefferson. He's definitely a specimen with a speed, skill, and size here. Actually, Dave Dickinson actually tweeted some respect, wondering how the heck this guy's not in the NFL here, but Willie Jefferson definitely is someone to keep an eye on. So I'm going to give the advantage to Winnipeg here on the defensive line here. So when it comes to the linebackers here, there's word that Calgary could possibly get Corey Greenwood back, which would definitely be a nice boost. But they also have Wynton McManus and rookie, who actually got named as finalist by Nate Hawley here. However, Winnipeg has Adam Bighill and Kyrie Wilson here, so I'm going to give the advantage to Winnipeg there, as Adam Bighill is also no slouch there. So Winnipeg still looks stacked on two levels on defense here. However, the third level here in the defensive backs here, well, Trey Roberson leads the way for Calgary with the 7 interceptions here. But because Trey Roberson had an early interception machine there, we still got guys like Brad Smith, Jamar Wall, Deshaun Amos, plus Raheem Wilson, and recently we picked up Dexter McCoyle, who can play all over the lineup. Winnipeg has guys like Brandon Alexander, Winston Rose, who led the league in interceptions here, and Marcus Sales here. They're no slouches either, but I'm going to give the advantage to Calgary here for the defensive backs here, as I think our ball hawks are a little better than theirs. Now, if you look at special teams here, the return game here, another mismatch here. Janarian Grant, the Stampeder killer for Winnipeg. Actually, I looked at a figure here that 44% of Janarian Grant's all-purpose yards came courtesy against Calgary. Calgary mostly is usually Terry Williams, and he's due to break out. He had that performance at the Grey Cup there that blew the windows open, but hands down, this is another mismatch. Winnipeg has the advantage there. So when it comes to the kicking game, well, Calgary has veterans Rene Paredes and for kicking and Rob Maver for punting here. However, Winnipeg has Justin Medlock for both duties here And Justin Medlock has the advantage on having a bigger leg here, as he can kick the ball a lot further here. So I'm going to give the slight advantage to Winnipeg there when it comes to the kicking game here. Although it wasn't a challenging field goal he had to make for the win there to take the season series here. So the weather, well, they're forecasting snow and minus 13 for a high on Sunday. Clear and minus 17 for a low for the Western semifinal here. So you're saying it's going to be cold. And it could be snowy here. So it could be an interesting matchup here, especially if the running game becomes prevalent here. And, Winnipeg definitely has the advantage of that, as I recently mentioned there. So this is now the part of the video, I was about to say episode, or video, where I'll say this team will win if. Calgary will win if they contain Janarian Grant, got your eye on you, number 80, and the running game. I put those both together. Those are going to be two biggies for Calgary. They need to contain Janarian Grant and the running game. Calgary will win if they win the turnover battle there. I mean, that obviously was definitely stuck out there in the second matchup there that Calgary got in turnover trouble there. We don't want to give these guys advantage there and don't want to give them field position there. I'm going to say Calgary will win if someone else steps up in receiving, seeing Regina and Josh off there. Because I'm also going to anticipate that we're led by Reggie Bingleton and Eric Rogers here. They're going to get a lot of attention on the defensive back there, so I'm going to say someone else needs to step up to support Reggie Bingleton and Eric Rogers here. Last one is Don Jackson breaks out. Is John Jackson going to finally have a game where he breaks out here and even out this matchup a little bit? So Winnipeg will win if, Janarian Grant, if he makes an impact, either on special teams, either returns bunt for a touchdown, a missed convert for 2 points, or gives them favorable field position. So it depends how big of a game Janarian Grant gets. Winnipeg will win if Bo Levi Mitchell gets pressured on, because he definitely is not as effective when he's got pressure all over him, and he's not as much of a scrambler compared to Winnipeg's quarterbacks here. Obviously, Andrew Harris, if he has a big game on the ground here, that's a big reason that Winnipeg are able to run out some games here, is they have the best running back in the league here, arguably one of the best running backs of all time. And the last one I say, if Zach Collaros continues his magic. Is Zach Collaros continue his magic from the last game here? And when I going back to the anomaly here, Winnipeg is going to see Calgary 3 times in a row here, because they played them in week 19, and they played them in week 20. They had a bye in week 21. So they ended the season a week earlier, and then they drew Calgary in the playoffs here, while the Calgary Stampeders will be seeing Winnipeg 3 out of 4 games here because of week 19 and 20. Calgary finished the season in BC in week 21, and then Calgary drew Winnipeg in the playoffs after when Saskatchewan clinched first here. So both of these teams are going to be very familiar with each other. So I'm going to say on both sides here is whoever keeps their cool the best. Whoever doesn't take any stupid penalties there, that's going to be a key for both sides. This is just unique just because of the quirk of the schedule that lots of frequent matchups here. So who do I think is going to win the Western semifinal and go to Regina the next week here to be a step closer to the 107th Grey Cup in Calgary? I'm going to give this one to the Calgary Stampeders with 65% confidence here. I mean, the big advantage is we have Bo. I have faith in Bo, and he's learned through the ups and downs of taking us to some Grey Cup champions and being on the wrong end, and I have faith that we'll be able to contain Janarian Grant, and somebody will break up for Calgary here, and maybe we'll get some injured guys back. Actually, speaking of Janarian Grant, he didn't have as big of a game in the game here in Calgary, but we'll see what happens with the weather here, if it's going to be cold and snowy here, and how much the running game is going to be. So anyway, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, so make sure you hit like, subscribe, and follow me along with the bell icon. I also do, so all kinds of Calgary sports content and personal vlogs here, and all I'm going to say is enjoy the games, and I'll see you next week at this time where I'll preview the East Final and the West Final, as next week at this time we'll be one step closer to the 107th Grey Cup, and in that video I'll be making my picks in separate videos on who I think will ultimately be here in Calgary for the Grey Cup here. So I'll see you then next week at this time to preview the final videos.